Okay, thanks for coming back to Ryan Bundy Show. Today I have Heidi Hazen. She is a soul-forward hypnotherapist. We had an amazing conversation based on how to actually heal. I talked to her a little bit about meditation. I talked to her about visualization and how those things can help a little bit, but her method is really going in deep into your past and into your soul and kind of picking out those things that are causing us some issues in our life, and I found it very fascinating. It's a great conversation. I hope you enjoy the episode. When I open this up, I kind of want to be like, what type of hypnotherapy?
It's its own modality. So okay. I'll riff on that, which is because I've completely blown the doors off of standard clinical hypnotherapy, and I use it as a modality to connect you to your soul. So your soul's on the other side of all the subconscious programming.
Yes.
So I use it to access that subconscious programming and the limitation and take you beyond it, to access like the spiritual aspect of you, which is missing from a lot of like traditional conscious-based modalities.
Yeah.
And hypnotherapy. I think hypnotherapy is mostly, look at us, we're already doing the podcast.
No, keep going. This is perfect.
I think when we think about hypnotherapy, we're often thinking about something like, oh, we'll help you quit smoking. We'll help you with overeating or,
trauma.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Like it's very focused around an objective. Like let's interrupt this pattern. And when I was training, we did age regression, and it was the middle of my training. And in the very middle, we had a module where we did age regression. And it was a like slap the hands on the table, stand up moment for me, because I couldn't believe that they had buried the lead. I couldn't believe that this was what was possible with hypnotherapy. With hypnosis in general, but hypnotherapy, you need somebody to guide you into that space. I was like, this is what everyone who's on a personal development, healing journey is looking for. Everybody who's trying to work on shadow or inner child or heal trauma or heal anything from the past, this is the one thing that they are looking for, because it's the one thing that allows you to access it. You can't access it. You can talk around it. It's like if your subconscious was a department store and your consciousness, your conscious mind is you on the outside looking through the windows and looking through the doors but having no access. So you can see and you know that happened to you. You know that this was this is the theme of the department store or this area of the department store, but you have no access to change it. So I work with people who have done years or decades of therapy. They've dipped into plant medicine because they're looking for something that's going to allow them to access that space, to actually authentically heal at the root. And that's what hypnosis is. I mean, hypnosis gives you the key to open the door. That's it. Yeah. And then you get to go in and you can actually change the display. You can rid yourself of things that are in there that no longer serve you. They don't fit anymore. I mean, it's so profound.
Yeah. So difference between meditation and this hypnotherapy, because it's like I try to change my subconscious through meditation and visualization, but it's maybe not as effective as what you're saying.
Yeah. So meditation, you enter into, I mean, you can go into a state of hypnosis just driving a car. If you've ever driven somewhere and you're like, I don't know how I got, I'm already home. Yeah. I don't know how to get here. I don't even remember driving. Or you've missed your exit because you're on a highway and they call it highway hypnosis because you've missed your exit because you're so lost in thought. Or if anybody's had to say like, Ryan, or to Ryan, you are in a state of hypnosis. It's just a light state. So there are multiple layers of the subconscious. And so when I'm doing hypnosis, I'm taking my clients into the somnambulistic level, which is like level 4 out of 6 or level 5 out of 7. I can't remember. But it's deep enough that it's like the moment right before you fall asleep. So every muscle is deactivated. And you're having that final thought, you've turned the light off and you're just about to fall asleep. That is the space that I take people. So hypnosis or hypnotherapy, when you're working, within that modality, all we need is your willingness. Like that's all we need is your willingness to go into that deeply relaxed state and listen to directives. Or in my case, I'm using insight-based hypnosis. So it's not me coming in and saying, you don't like smoking, you don't want to eat carbs anymore, or whatever. I'm actually pinging your subconscious and your soul to show you what you need to see. So meditation, the objective is different. So with hypnosis, I have an objective. I am taking you to specific places, but I'm not guiding you there. I'm just holding the space open, and then you are guiding yourself there. I'm just getting you into that deep space. So meditation might take you into, the second layer of hypnosis or the second layer of the subconscious. But if you're just in that space and you're not doing anything in the space, that's like entering into the department store and just standing there. Exactly.
You're not shopping.
That's exactly it. So what was the other thing that you said? Visualization.
Visualization.
So I think that's brilliant. So there is an element in between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind called the critical factor, the critical function. I call it the bodyguard. It's literally this component of your brain that is protecting the subconscious. It's protecting what you have created throughout your entire life, because that is your identity. Those are your core beliefs, your core wounds, your core perceptions, whatever they are. That's what has made you you and how you are as a conscious being. So this bodyguard is protecting what's in there. So if something...
It's like an ego?
No, it's not. It's just this element it's protecting the ego.
Okay.
So it's this piece that says, well, here's a piece of information. If I said, well, Ryan, I think you can make $1 million this year. And you might be like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it. But your subconscious programming around money and finances is like,
yeah,
no. So what happens is that bodyguard says, this piece of information does not match. It is not in alignment with what we have built here. And the subconscious is close to 95% of your mind.
Yeah.
And the conscious
it's the storage unit.
It's the storage unit, and it's infinite in size. And it just keeps building the same thing. What it does is, if a piece of information comes in that says, if you have a belief that you're a burden, happens to be my core belief. That's my core perception, my core wound, was that I was a burden. So I have a lot of programming. I have healed a ton of it. But if somebody were to say, like, God, you ask for too much, ooh, that matches. So that piece of information gets past the bodyguard and gets to accumulate. Yes, exactly. So when you are doing visualization, this is what's beautiful about visualization, daydreaming, fantasizing, is that bodyguard doesn't think you're serious. So when you're doing that, you're playing and you have access. It's like the back door of the department store opens.
It's like, oh yeah, whatever, you can go
Exactly.
in.
It doesn't think you're serious. So it'll allow you to do that. And what happens is you get to play in the energy of that visualization. And so you are actually going into that department store and putting up a new display.
Yeah.
Changing out the window, like doing whatever you want to do. And so there's beauty in that. And I encourage my clients to daydream a lot, because you go into a space that is a very beautiful space energetically, which is sending out a different frequency. And it's putting in more of what you want. And it's not doing the work. We're not, you're going back into the department store. You're not doing work.
You're not cleaning it.
You're not cleaning up, and you're not making any changes, except you're adding something in. So if there's a big display of, hardware, if it's a big display of hardware in your subconscious department store, and you come in with soft goods, you're going to have to come in with a lot of soft goods a lot of times in order to shift the focus of what is happening in there from hardware to soft goods.
Yeah.
But if you can just go in and eliminate the soft goods, if you can go in and eliminate the hardware, you have all of the space, and that's where I work. I work in, let's heal what you came to experience, because I believe that we have come to have the exact experience that we have had in life. And modern day people will talk about limitations. You have an upper limit, and you've got a limiting belief, or whatever. You've got a limiting something. Those limitations, that's a very cool way of sort of talking about personal development and areas of weakness or whatever. They're just lessons. If you drop in to the subconscious and deal with it, if you can, and this is what I channeled, was like, here's how to do it holistically. If we can sit with the thing that we perceive from our conscious mind as a limitation that we need to overcome or, get beyond, if we can actually reap the wisdom of what is contained within it, we become wise. And then that thing no longer operates. Like you close that section.
You're like, oh, okay, I get that part.
That's
doesn't
it.
work.
Yeah, but you're really learning that what the soul came for. The soul came to have an evolutionary experience through all of your human experiences. And so if you can just go in and sit with it, then it's no longer there. It's like you've closed that area of the department store, and then it gets cleared out, and now you have all the space. Well, what do you do with the space? Well, your soul gets to come forward. You get to choose new curriculum. You get to choose what goes into that space instead of it being filled up by everything that matches what's already in there. Well, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to bring that into my relationships anymore.
Yeah, no, it's super, like, because I, like, you know, do all these things to try to change my subconscious, right? But sometimes it'll just revert back, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, what? There's so much I think the self-help industry is so big because it's really hard to fix yourself, I think, permanently. It's a never-ending cycle, right? So you're saying that you can actually you can heal this things and actually move on from them?
Yeah. I'm the person that people come to when they've tried everything. So I work with really sort of very highly conscious, very self-aware people who are like, show me my Myers-Briggs, show me my Enneagram, let me understand who I am and how come I can't get out of this? And I've done the therapy and I've gone over here and I've done this and I've read the books and I listened to the podcasts. And that's all external. That's all conscious.
But the program's running in the background.
Always.
And you don't see it, you don't know, and it's back there. It is basically dictating your life without you knowing it.
Exactly.
It's super frustrating because you know, like I know it is.
Yeah.
Like I know.
Yes.
I'm very aware that my triggers, they come and I'm like, well, are these even rational? You know, right? And
doesn't matter if they're rational or not.
It doesn't.
They're there. It's that a trigger is it's a program. It's literally a program. It's a language program and an emotional program that is wired into your subconscious. Your subconscious wires your nervous system and your emotions. So every time you have an emotional response to something that is not your chosen response to it, that's an automatic program that is running in your subconscious that is indicated to your nervous system to respond this way.
Like a PTSD, that's a form of, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Your body's just...
Yeah, and then you feel that emotion and you're like, oh, but when we catch it in the emotional phase, when we're like, you know, super upset because somebody just cut us off in a roundabout or something and we fly into some sort of like road rage, that's a trigger because somebody else would have that same experience and be like, oh, they must be in a hurry. I'll let them go. Yeah. And back to their... So catching a trigger is like catching the caboose. The train is the subconscious. The cars in between the train and the caboose are it's the pattern. It's the program that's running. It's the operating system around that particular event or stimuli or whatever. And when we catch it in the caboose, you can't change anything. You cannot change the tracks that are being laid all the time. We are constantly laying the tracks. We are on a trajectory. Our future will look exactly like our past because that's what our subconscious wants. Our subconscious is wired for self-protection and self-soothing, and we are wired to lean back. So like you said, the self-help industry is massive because people are seeking. We don't want to sit in our poop soup. We don't want to stay in the same thing. We don't want to take the dynamic from the relationship we just got out of and take it into the next relationship that we have. We don't want to spin our wheels in our career. We want to actually move forward on the trajectory that we want to go on. But in order for us to create a future that is different, we have to interrupt patterns and programs within the subconscious because our subconscious is actually the thing that is controlling our nervous system, our emotions, and our energy, and we manifest from our energy. What is an energetic match? And so the subconscious is 100% fine with your life looking exactly the same because it knows exactly what to do. It knows exactly what buttons to push for you to respond to things in your environment the way that you do. Those are those triggers. I think that the self-help industry is, and I leaned into it for decades because I'm a seeker. You know what I mean? Like I want the best. I have a conviction and I have an inner restlessness of like not settling. And like I came here to do something big. I came here to have this kind of relationship. I want to have this kind of impact on humanity. I want to have this kind of, lifestyle. And we get caught in healing loops. It may feel like we're doing something different because maybe the circle has widened a bit. We're still in a circle and maybe we don't realize it for, a month or a year, or now we're in this relationship and oh my gosh, we've been in this relationship for 5 years and here it is again. We don't realize that we're not on a straight path because we can't be on a straight path until we heal what's in the subconscious and interrupt those patterns.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I'll be good for a while.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, why did I just went back? But I'm noticing it.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, the good thing is I'm like, I see how it's working.
Yes,
by
the mechanics.
stepping back and going, why am I anxious?
Yeah.
Like, everything's fine. Okay, well, it's a bad market. Who cares? Like, I shouldn't be stressed about it, right? But like, it's the fear of, not having enough from when I grew up, right?
Exactly.
It's that fear of money
Yeah.
and stuff that works, and you're like looking at it going, but I'm not really, my body is anxious, but I know I shouldn't be anxious.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it.
And the beauty of that kind of situation or a trigger situation is that it's in my world, what I would say is that you're being shown something that is ready to be healed. It's going to continue to come up over and over and over again until you heal it at the root. So what happens with traditional modalities, or reading self-help books and implementing some of the things in there, or going to see a therapist or a counselor, and I think they're great. They've brought us this far, but we actually have further to go, which is why people are really we are ready for the next step, and I am part of that revolution. Now I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Traditional modalities. What was I saying? Cue up the code. Cue it up. I love it. I was talking about triggers.
We were talking the next step, or was that the thing?
Talking about anxiety, talking about the thing to heal. Okay, so in my world, what I would say is you are ready to heal that thing. Your soul is saying, here is a long string. Here's what I was going to say. So in traditional modalities, like going to therapy, you talk about what is happening. You talk about, well, I'm feeling really anxious. Here's what happened, or here's this trigger situation in my relationship or at work or with my finances. And you talk about what is happening. And the therapist might say, okay, well, let's pull on this. And you're already aware. And awareness is step one, but it doesn't actually change anything. So you are aware, but oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought again.
I know.
Sorry, it's perimenopause, you guys. It's like brain dendrites are dying.
We go into so many, it's like so fascinating to me. I'm like, oh my God, where are we going?
I know, but I want to take us where we're going. Okay, here we go. When you're talking about what's happening in the now, you're talking about the newest growth on a tree. It's the newest thing that has come off of something that is pre-existing. So a seed was planted likely in your early childhood, like before you were 5 years old. A seed was planted, and then it has been nurtured, and it's germinated, and it sprouted roots, and then it grew. And these are what, like, our core beliefs, core perception, core wound turns into this massive living, breathing tree within our subconscious of our neural pathways and everything. And it's just going to continue to grow. And so what we learn from these traditional modalities that are based in the conscious is how to manage the symptom. Oh, okay, so just don't do that again. Or use this tool next time you have that kind of interaction with your partner. Use this tool. And what it is it's teaching you how to manage the growth of something that actually is ready to be healed. So what you are becoming aware of when you suddenly go, I'm anxious, and there's no reason for me to be anxious. Your subconscious, your inner child, is anxious about something that you are not aware of, because your subconscious is taking in, 40,000 bits of information every minute, and your conscious mind is taking in whatever, however many. Tiny amount. So your subconscious and these patterns that are integrated into your nervous system and emotions are wiser than your conscious mind. So when you come at it like, there's no reason. Is this even logical for me to have these thoughts?
Well, I know, but the thing is I know where it's from.
So, but have you worked there?
No. Well, I mean, just through the meditations and thoughts and, visualizations, which, it works, but then if you stop, it just goes whoop, right back to normal.
Yes, because we're wired for self-protection, and the subconscious doesn't want you to change it, because if you picture this inner child who's like built this, freaking like, not a state fair, like a, whatever you're talking about. A carnival. So your inner child has built this inner carnival with like whatever it could find, because it doesn't get tools. It has to forget its worthiness, its power, its light, its unconditionally, lovability. It has to forget all of that. I call it crossing the veil of forgetting. So you drop in and you start to have this human experience, and you have a moment And that's the moment that that seed gets planted. And then you have moment after moment after moment for your entire life. If you are someone like you who wants to interrupt these patterns and not have this thing and not have this wound, I take my people through work to the point that I want you to look at every aspect of the life that you have had, the highs, the lows, the worst stuff, the trauma, the everything, and feel complete peace. Because eventually you will come to the point that you have extraordinary gratitude for everything. But we so often don't want to turn around. And so in my work, I have us tether into where our soul actually wants us to be headed so that we have a hold on something. We have a grasp on something that is tethered to the future that our soul wants to have. Now, we've got to deal with the part that's in between our conscious mind and our soul, and that is all the layers. If you've ever seen a Russian nesting doll. That's what I use as the whole complete perfect inner doll that can't get any smaller is your whole soul. But it drops in and then it has that initial experience, and then here comes that. Now that becomes your identity. And now another one, it becomes your identity. And it just keeps going and going and going and going. And then the outermost layer is your conscious self, who you show up as right now. And so this is the beauty of the work that I do, is that I'm working to access your soul, which is your truest self. I mean, it's not you then this body and who you've been.
Your basic identity type thing,
it's your eternal identity. And it's dropped in to have this human experience. And we've got to clear out, we've got to deal with what's between the soul, the innermost layer of that Russian nesting doll, and the outermost layer in between, because it will hijack, you know what I mean? It will hamstring any effort that we're trying to go this way.
It's almost like it's working against you.
Yes, 100%.
So in like religion, like faith-based, it's like it's like the soul, or they call it the devil or the demons or whatever, and those are the layers, right? And it's like, but it's funny because, like I said, it pulls you back.
Yes.
So the sports psychology experience I had was life-changing. It like completely changed. I had no stress. I was super amazing playing, like autopilot, like holy crap, like it's kind of crazy what's going on, because I was effortless.
Yeah.
And then it was like, but I was so young, I didn't understand that you have to keep working on it, right?
Right.
And so I got to figure it out. And then, like 2 or 3 months go by, I became inconsistent with the visualization, and I went right back to where I was, and even worse.
Oh, that's tough.
You know what I mean? And I was just like, well, what happened? Well, now I'm older and wiser. I'm like, well, it's just like anything else.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, if you heal something, do you have to revisit it and continue to heal it? No? Interesting.
But you do have to be consistent. So you became who you were, like before, when you were the athlete and you were going into sports psychology stuff, you became that person through consistency.
Yes.
Through consistency of being who you were programmed to be. So you showed up in life the way that everything had programmed you to show up in life. So when I take my clients, like when I take someone into the process of Soul Forward Method, I'm taking them, they're guiding themselves all the way back to these inner dolls of the Russian nesting doll, and we're healing. And I actually take them to before they were born. I take them all the way back. And so then what happens is everything is about perception. Every single thing, every wound you have, every belief you have, it is a perception that your child mind or your infant mind or your teenage mind or whatever believed to be true. So what I do is I go back and I grab your soul, and your soul comes forward and revisits these events and gives its perception, its perspective of the event, and it's the truth.
Like the real, as I said, the baseline truth.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, that was someone else's perception of you when they said that you were ugly, or that you were worth nothing, or that you were a burden, or that you were too much. And it's like, that's not fundamentally true, but you've chosen it because it's part of your curriculum.
But you don't even know that you chose it.
You don't.
So
and
I still have this insecurity about like success and money. I know it's because, we grew up, my mom was, my parents got divorced, and I struggled the first, probably 10 years, right? And so I know that restlessness has driven me.
Yes.
But it's also causes problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And that's a program that exists within your subconscious. So if we go back and interrupt the pattern early enough, envision a string of pearls. If the first event that you had was a pearl put on, a piece of fishing line. Mm-hmm. We put that on there, and that's the first one. And then you have another one and another one and another one and another one. And now you've got this long string of pearls, and it's all wadded up in one area of your subconscious department store. You've got this massive pile of events that match each other, and they're sending out this frequency of scarcity, fear around money, are we going to be okay? All of those things that you absorb through your own experience of what was happening, post-divorce and whatever, but you're also being programmed by mom or dad and their energy and how they're responding to paying the bills and, keeping everything afloat and going forward. So when we hop in, when I bring people into the subconscious using age regression, they're hopping back. They're not grabbing the most recent pearl and pulling that one off. That would be pointless. Yeah. They're jumping all the way back to, the first pearl. And if you
have to
pull
set the
that
stage
off,
for that somehow? Or you just have a thing and then they go automatically back there? Or is it?
Yeah, so I don't use memory ever. That's the beauty of the fact that the subconscious programs your nervous system. Mm-hmm. I just drop you into a deeply relaxed state as a master hypnotist. That's what I'm trained to do. I'm really good at it. I drop you into that state. And then I will ping you to pull up a trigger. So if we pulled up a trigger for you around like anxiety around success, because you can find it, and when we go past the bodyguard who's like protecting the insecurity around success and money and all the things, hypnosis allows us to go past the bodyguard. And once we're in there, I can say, okay, now I'm going to have you bring up a situation that you've recently been in. But I want you to bring it up in your emotions. I want you to feel the experience of like, oh, you're looking at the bank account, or you're looking at you don't have enough clients, or whatever it is. That is just the most recent pearl. And then I will age regress you using, the method, and you will hop back. You will literally hop back. And what happens is you will recognize that it's the same thing. This is just an earlier time. This is an earlier pearl. Mm-hmm. And then I go back, and then I go back, and then I go back, and then I take you back to your soul. And then I bring your soul forward. And then we grab these pearls and we just pull them all the way off the string. And it changes you because we are in the space. We literally went into the department store and cleaned house. You will then have to be consistent in everything is a language program. So your identity and everything in your subconscious, it's all language based. It's a language program. So if my core belief, my core language program operating system is I'm a burden, and I am one of my kind of offshoots of that main tree. Another branch of that tree for me was that I was disposable. That it didn't matter if I was here or dead. Mm-hmm. So, and these are just childhood events that happened. Not even a big deal. Like I had to put jumper cables on a car and I thought I was going to die and my family walked away and I was like, oh, but that stayed with me. When I discovered that, I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like, okay. Whatever the belief is in that's something that we find in the subconscious. Easy peasy. Once we find that, we can then begin to use, language to counteract and to replace. So if the belief is I'm a burden, I have healed so much of that I don't actually feel like a burden. But if I were to begin working on that right now, I would find a mantra or an affirmation that is literally counter to that belief. What is the actual belief? I'm actually a blessing. Like, I'm not a burden. I am massively purposeful, or whatever it is that matches for me, that is an interruption to that specific program. When we work with affirmations and mantras, just kind of like willy-nilly, which that's a big industry, there's a lot.
When you're journaling and affirmations and stuff, does that work?
Well, the thing is, and you had Aaron Teeks on the show, and he and I were just chatting about this. They have done studies that have found that speaking to your self-talk in the second or third person is actually more powerful than speaking an I am statement. Most of mantras and affirmations are all about the I am.
Yeah,
I am powerful. I am whatever. But if that statement that you are, I am a millionaire, okay, but we've got the bodyguard. So even though I'm saying I am a millionaire, It's
fake.
like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're so funny that you're saying that. And you think you're going to actually, that's like walking around with a picket sign outside of your department store going like, you're a millionaire, you're a millionaire.
The bodyguard can filter the BS.
Exactly, exactly.
That's why I stopped doing affirmations, because it wasn't working for me really.
Yeah.
Like the journaling sometimes and writing my thoughts down helps, like get it out and process. But the affirmations to me were never something
activating.
Yeah, the visualization works really well for me.
No,
though.
I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Anyway,
But if we're working with a language program, then we've got to work with a language program. And if my core wound is I'm a burden, and I've got this affirmation over here of I'm a millionaire, that's not counter to this. It's not going to interrupt this pattern of belief, this language program that's running, that's talking about a burden. That's so far over here. That's such like an accessory thing. It's not aligned with the thing that actually needs to be interrupted. So I would need to find an affirmation. And now I'm working with my clients and myself, and I know Aaron's doing it too. We're working on affirmations, but in a different way. We're working with affirmations in the second or third person. Because
so like Ryan, you are like talking to yourself? Or?
Yeah, you're like, Heidi, you're a millionaire. Or Heidi, you're a blessing. Heidi, you're here with massive purpose. And even adding your last name is even more powerful. And if you think about someone, how validating is it for someone to coach you or to get in your face and, affirm you? It's different when it's coming from someone outside of you. So that's the belief, is that if you're speaking in second person, if you're doing pull-ups and you've got to hit, 25 or whatever it is, and you get to 15 and you're like, I'm not going to finish this. Yeah. And so to use an I am, like, I can do this, is not as powerful as saying, you can do this. You can do this. Heidi, you can do this. Heidi, you've got this. That's like having a coach. That's like having.
I can actually feel it. Thinking
yes,
about
you can.
It.
Yes.
I just thought about in this. I actually was getting. My heart was beating from thinking about pull-ups and thinking about going through. Oh my God.
Yeah. So these are beautiful tools.
So you're talking to your soul or something,
yeah,
right?
It feels very much like I take my people. I take them to the soul. I actually am doing a live event in a couple of weeks here in Bend, and I will take everybody to their soul.
What about The Untethered Soul, that book? Is that kind of where you talk to yourself the same way, right? Like, hey man, like chill out, you're talking to the chatter.
So that book was pivotal for me. I read it one time, maybe 6 years ago. I read it one time, and it was like the thing that I needed to kind of, like it was a trim tab, like a little tiny adjustment on like the rudder of my boat. And I was like, oh, suddenly, 5 years down the line, I'm in a completely different area of the ocean that I would have been if I hadn't read that book. But when we talk to ourselves in that second or third person, for my clients who have gone through this work and recognize and start to identify more as their soul than their accolades and their human experience, when they're using affirmations and in the second or third person, it is the soul speaking to the human. The human is the hiccup. The human programming, the human experience is the hiccup. The soul has no problem knowing that it's worthy, that it's totally capable, that it came here with purpose, that it's got gifts, that it's got magic to bring, and all the things. It's the human experience. But if we're not working within the subconscious, we will identify as the culmination of our human experience. How often are we like, well, I went through this, and we want to give all the limitations. Well, I'm not as successful because my parents got divorced, and I've been abandoned by 4 stepfathers. Whatever it is, we like to label ourselves because it gives us an opportunity to shape the lens through which people view us, but it's very limiting. But it makes our subconscious very comfortable.
Yeah, totally. I catch myself doing that all the time, like, just talking about, like, for instance, the market right now is very difficult in our industry. And I've been doing this for 21 years. I've been in very difficult markets, but I'm like trying to like validate that into my mind. And I feel like I'm reprogramming in a bad way sometimes if I talk to like, well, it's this because of this, or it's this because of this. And then, I feel like I'm reaffirming something that's taken me, I should be thinking about it or talking to myself in a different way.
Yeah.
So I see that and I adjust it.
Yeah.
But it's a trip.
It is. Yeah, and we spend a lot of energy managing. Yeah. Managing the thoughts, managing our emotions, showing up in this space like this. Sometimes. It is exhausting. That's the thing that, like, when my clients are like, oh my gosh, I have so much energy. Like, because if you think about every experience that you've had that has not been in alignment with like, oh my gosh, you're worthy and you're loved and you're totally capable and you're going to be successful or whatever. If you think about all the experiences you've had in life, there's a poet and writer named Robert Bly, and he wrote a book called The Little Book on the Human Shadow. And I'm pulling one little excerpt, and I'm going to completely just paraphrase. But he talks about like all of these experiences that you have had that are, in my mind, it's your lesson. It's all the things that you came here to experience. But you take all of these and you put them in the bag, like Santa, you put them in the long bag you drag behind you, which is your human shadow. So if you have collected an entire lifetime worth of negative experiences or experiences that took you out of alignment with your worthiness and your capability and your all the beautiful things that your soul knows is absolutely true, then you've got a heavy load. So when we go in and we pull out that giant tangle of strings, a string of pearls that is your core belief about yourself, and we remove it from the bag, people literally lift up. Like when I'm doing hypnosis, people will go, it's radical, but I will take them in and you can see them. I mean, people are like, oh my gosh, I almost just threw up. I'm like, well, don't do that. Don't do that. But because we're hopping timelines. I mean, we're in the quantum realm. So we're hopping timelines and we're going back to these experiences, and I take them into the future. I take people into the future and I'm like, this is where you will be. Because you will show yourself. I don't know where you're going to be, but I can hold the space and I can guide you. And you can go 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road with all the same limitations you have in place right now, because you've used the tools and they've only brought you this far. So let's see what that looks like if we go in the future, because you're on the timeline, you're already manifesting, this is your future. And then I pull you back and I say, okay, now let's see what happens if you heal all of it and use a different tool, and let's see where your soul wants to go. And it's a completely different trajectory. And what happens is the first experience, it's very like heavy and dense, and you can see them just kind of like.
Are they awake?
No, it's like that moment right before sleep.
So they don't remember.
Oh no, they do. Yeah, because you remember. Because you're not sleeping. You're not. It's
a
trance-like state.
Like your brain might be like resistant to getting to that point.
That's where the willingness comes in.
Where you just be like, take it.
Once we go past the bodyguard, and that's where your willingness happens. Like I have cues, I can see if you're willing or not. If you come in and you're like, yeah, I want to try this, and you feel comfortable with your hypnotist, then you can drop in. You can drop in, and you will self-protect to a degree, meaning you might not go all the way down to the subnebalistic level. You might go right above it. You can always open your eyes. Like you always have control in that way. But you are in like a deep, when you just space out, but you are just deeply spaced out. And so then all these things are happening and you are hopping timelines, and here you are in the past and here you are in that traumatic event, and you revivify, which means you're actually just hopping timelines. You're just literally hopping back into the experience as the 7-year-old who was holding the jumper cables, or as the whatever. So when you come out, when my people come from this one, and I do it all in one session because I never leave you in a dark place. I never leave you in a place of, and that's the thing. I have a hard time with, weekly 50-minute therapy sessions. I'm like, you're going to unpack all your stuff and then just leave it there.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. So I always leave on a high note. I always leave on your soul forward. In that energetic, alignment and that frequency. But as I bring people this way, they literally, everything just goes up like this. Everything, their faces will lift all the way up, and like their face, it's so powerful. It's amazing. But you remember everything. Everybody comes out, but it's so different than working consciously. And it's so different than a guided meditation, because it's with purpose. Not that there's not purpose, it's a very specific purpose. When we're using hypnosis, it's like, we're in here to do business. Like, we got the door, hey, we've got the key to the department store. Do you want to go in there and like wreak some massive havoc, like in the best possible way?
Do you think that there's, like, when you look at like religion, faith, and it's like, they talk about the keys to the kingdom, right? It's like, how do people get cured of things because of the, are we talking about the same type of thing? To me, all faiths kind of do the same thing in a different way, in a different culture, right? Different parts of the world or whatever, but they're all kind of doing the same thing. And is this kind of a way to not in a religious way, do the same work or be different? Or I know that's a weird question.
No, I think it's awesome. So I spent 25 years in Christianity from the time I was 12 till I was whatever that math is, 37, 38 years old. And then I've done this massive healing work, and I have actually reconnected with the divinity that is within all of us. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what religion are, we are connected to the divine, whether you call that Buddha or Christ or God or whatever. But I am now in a position where I can understand that, if your soul chose to drop into, the United States in the 70s and you were in a Christian community, that's all programming. That's all patterning, because your soul could have chosen to drop into, another country at the same time, and you would have been patterned and programmed subconsciously with that religion, with that faith and those beliefs and ideals. So our soul chooses to drop into whatever or none, and be exposed to it at 12 years old and be like, sign me up, I'll take it. Okay, and then I'm gonna not take it anymore, but thank you so much. But I think that religion is very much about like rules and control, personally. Yeah. And so for me, and I was very much like, give me all the rules. I want every single rule that you have, and I will take it. I will get an A+. And I did. You wanted to stay in the. Because it was safe and it was known. You knew what the rules were, and so that for me felt like 4 walls of a box, and it was like this is the perimeter, like this is where you can go within this. This is how you're safe. This is how you are safe. And because my childhood was very bumpy with lots of divorces and abandonment and moving every year in different schools and all kinds of stuff, I was just like, at 12 years old, I was like, can I have one thing that's going to be consistent? One thing, yeah, because I'll take it with me to the different houses and the different schools and the different parents and step-parents. So I wanted that thing. And then when I started to heal, when I really started to go like, man, I can't, it wasn't even about religion. It was about like my existence and, the marriage that I was in at the time and these different things. And the walls just kind of fell down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually saw this beautiful image that really resonated with me about religion. And it was an ocean. And we were in the ocean, not at the top, but in the ocean. And there was a goldfish bowl, for a single goldfish. It's a beautiful opened goldfish bowl with a single goldfish. And it had an arrow pointing to the goldfish in the goldfish bowl. And it said religion. And then it pointed to the ocean and it said spirituality. Yeah. So it's like, it's part of the whole. Yes. And no matter what religion, exactly as you said, it's like, it's all part of the whole. Yeah. So if we can go beyond the programming that we have and connect to the divine, then
it's a pathway. The way I look at it, it's a pathway. People go up to the universe and the energy. I'm like, to me, it's all like there's only one thing. Like, right. And I don't know, but that's just the way I think. Right. And it's like, well, this is your pathway to get to that. If you do it properly. Like, there's the religion stuff that kind of ruins it all, right? But then there's there was an analogy, because I go to church. I actually go to Jeff's church, but like I said, I look at this kind of in a different way. Yeah, yeah. I'm not going there to be like this. It's like it talks about, there's a connection between your soul or God or and your consciousness. Then there's this pipeline, and we fill that pipeline with just garbage. It's like a drain of just hair and whatever, right? And it's like addictions, it's stress, it's all this stuff, and the more clogged it is, we can't connect to the source.
That's the subconscious.
Yeah.
Your subconscious is the funnel.
Yes.
With all the crap in it.
And so I think about that all the time now. I'm like, I think it's clean, but I still kind of feel anxious or whatever, right? And so it's interesting that we met, because I'm like, that you're trying to figure out, like, how do you really fix this stuff? Right? Yeah. You can pray and meditate and do all that stuff, but I'm not sure how permanent it is.
Yeah, because you're working again from the outside. Yeah. You're walking on the outside, tapping on the window, or holding up a sign to try to create influence on something that you cannot change, the subconscious, unless you can get through that door.
Yeah. What were they doing before this? What other methods would be similar?
Well, I think that modern psychology and hypnotherapy really had its origins in shamanism. I mean, they were the first people that were doing...
India, shaman?
I think there are different ideas about where it originated. I feel like it's a Southern America, like it's coming, okay.
Like
they're doing, ayahuasca and all these different things. So that's plant medicine. whatever. But I think the shamans were really like connected to spirit. They were connected. I mean, they were just divinely connected. They just, they had a pretty clear channel. And so then they were bringing those healing things to the people that didn't have that channel, but wanted to, tap into that kind of source of energy or whatever. And I think that it's been iterated and modernized. I think a lot about plant medicine. I work with people who have done ayahuasca and different things, and there's a missing piece, even if you, even if you do something like ketamine or something like that, or psilocybin that is now sort of available and not against the law or
That's
whatever.
The mushroom.
Yeah. When you do these things, it's an experience, it's a journey, but you come out, and if you don't have tools for integration, you're in trouble.
You're just back to, or you're
you just threw up a lot, and you threw up your money because you have this experience in, doing ayahuasca and going to the jungle, or, doing combo and, throwing up into a 5-gallon bucket, whatever you want to do. It doesn't suit me. It doesn't speak to me. I want something that's clean. I want something that's proven. I want something that's strategic. And that's what came through me, because I want you to have the tools for integration. Because if you have an experience that blows you out, but you then come back to regular life and you can't maintain the consistency because you have no tool to maintain the consistency of whatever that experience expanded within you, then you're going to wind up back where you were, and you're going to say, oh yeah, I had this really cool experience one time in church, or I had this really cool experience over here, but you're still dealing with an entire lifetime of programming, patterning, and layers within the subconscious. I have another theory around plant medicine and ayahuasca and things that come from different parts of planet Earth. I mean, if you think about genealogy, like we're raised on what we're raised on food-wise. We're exposed to different, we have different plants here, and we have different trees here. And the people that are in South America are raised with different soil and different air and different water, and they're different, they're
made up
differently. And so to use a medicine that is made from what is in your environment works. I think it works beautifully for the people that are from that environment, because they've been raised in it. They've been exposed to it for their entire, genealogy. Exactly. So we become accustomed, like our cells, we become cellularly accustomed to our environment. And I think, there's so many, and I'm like, well, you chose to be an American. Like, you chose to be born in North America, and I'm a North American woman. You know what I mean? It's like, those aren't the tools. I don't necessarily think that we should be sort of, cultural appropriation or something. And think about, like, you've chosen to be in this environment with these being exposed to these things.
Interesting.
What does that look like? Like, give me clean tools.
Interesting. When you talk about the soul chooses to be in a certain place, and you're like, because I was just talking to Connor, I'm like, I want to move to the Philippines and live on the beach. We're fantasizing, and you're like, well, maybe we're not meant to. I don't know. It just popped into my head.
I think you should go. I think you should go. I think you should.
Well, we're talking about this. Things are crazy, and modern humans. I mean, we're just loaded with extra stimuli.
100%.
It's like mind-blowing. I've been having conversations with people. I'm like, this is out of control.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
It's so bizarre. Humans haven't adapted to that, right?
No, our nervous systems are like, well, I don't know what.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, why are we what? Can we just chill out a little bit?
Yeah, that's why you want to go to the Philippines. You want to be like off the radar, off grid. You want to be on the beach. You want all the things.
Raise my kids.
Yes.
Hang out.
Totally.
Yeah,
I do.
But then there's the fear.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Can I do it? Is it okay?
It's not okay to do that. I'm supposed to grind it out my whole life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Programmed that way.
Yes, you are. We all are. But we can get in there and interrupt the programming, and then
I might be calling you. Serious.
You should come to the Alive event. It's going to be awesome. Yeah,
Are you going to
did it in January.
You don't do any funny party stuff where you
No.
That's actually pretty funny to see if you've seen those.
It is, but I have to demystify all of that. That's the thing, because people have this idea of this Hollywood hypnosis, and people like walking like a duck, or like talking like a gorilla, or like picking things out of people's hair, or whatever it is.
I know that we can have fun in this conversation, but how does that happen? Like, what's the difference?
It's the same thing. So what if somebody, if there's like a stage hypnotist who comes out, he's going to field the audience, and he's going to ask specific questions, and he's going to be able to pick out who is willing.
He can tell. Because I'm saying like some people are going to go up there and it's not going to work.
Exactly. So he does specific things to see their reaction and their willingness. And when you can read it. You can actually have them do something and see who does it, a specific way with their hand or their arm or their, whatever. And then he'll call the people up, and there are people who are highly suggestible. So it's very easy to drop them in, and you can drop them into a really deep space because they're willing.
Well, they're literally like just they'll go limp and then they'll come up and
and do these,
snap his fingers.
Yes, exactly. And so people have this idea. I have a really amazing woman that just finished working with me last week, and every time we would be in the same place. She'd be like, "This is Heidi Hazen. Now she's a certified master hypnotist, but she's not a stage hypnotist. She's not like a Vegas hypnotist." And I'm like, "You have a hang up about this. I don't. I can just say like I'm a hypnotist, and then if that's if that piques someone's interest, they'll go further. But I don't need to like lead with that I'm not a stage hypnotist." But I have to work against that a lot of times because people are like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to, program me to eat Oreos every day?
Have you seen Office Space?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You don't want to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I have to work against that. But I've had to do that in multiple things. I was a human design reader before I started doing hypnosis, and nobody knew what human design was. And so I was sort of on the forefront of having to be like, okay, so human design is this, culmination of this, and this, and it's telling you how to operate as an energetic being, and it's like Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, but like blown out. And now I have to do it with hypnosis, but there's a massive movement of people becoming hypnotists because it is so profound. Good. It really is. And it needs to become the frontline modality. It's like, I work with people who have spent decades in therapy, and they're just like, OMG, if we don't fix this, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I have a friend who's a therapist, and he's like, when I'm working with my therapist, and he's like, this is because of your mom. And he's like, I know. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is I know where the feelings come from, the triggers. I go, that's because of this, and I laugh at it. But it's super annoying.
Yeah, you're like, why does this keep coming up? Can we just deal with it and be done with it?
Yeah. That's the problem, and that's funny because there's so many things that drag me down it's just ridiculous. Like if I put in a bunch of work and I don't see the results right away. I know that I shouldn't see the results right away, but I still get like depressed. Like I'm like,
down in the
dumps.
What's wrong
with me?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And we don't want to do that because then we carry that. Because then when you're in that space, it's like a radio dial. Back when we had those, up and down the AM,
the frequency.
FM. Yeah.
And then bring it home or whatever.
Yeah, and you change the frequency that you're at, and you demagnetize yourself.
And
when you're around
change
people,
your attraction.
100%. Yeah. You're changing your
magnetism. And that's another thing that freaks me out because I know that too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in this state of mind, which now I'm going to manifest what I don't want to manifest.
Yeah. But what you're always manifesting is what's in alignment with your subconscious.
Yeah.
So we can override it, and this is one of the things that I teach early on. It's a second module of my work, is your emotional energy and how to authentically, not slap a smile on your face and pretend you're happy, but authentically, legitimately shift your frequency, your energetic frequency, your emotions. Because your energy, your frequency, like whatever frequency you are, doesn't lie. Your face can lie, your words can lie, your actions can lie. You can pretend. You can pretend to do this.
From other people though?
Yes. So, but if we are trying to override, like the thoughts that we're having, and we just go, no, I'm totally fine. I can pick it up anyway.
Yeah, sure.
I can pick it up really quickly, but everybody can. Like, you can feel when somebody's faking it. You can feel it. And so what matters is not the thought, it's the energy. It's whatever is attached to it. So your subconscious, again, programs your nervous system, which programs your emotions, which programs your energetic field. So if you are not conscious and consistent about what frequency, where you are on the dial, if you're not consistent about what you want and where you are headed, and it's against the flow, because that is against what your subconscious wants until you go in and clear out what's in there, effing up your frequency.
Yeah, you have to constantly be aware of that.
It becomes so easy, though, when you clear out the subconscious.
Yeah, I got to clear that out. What do you think, Connor?
Me too.
It's so good, you guys. It's so
I'm going to clear this out because I know it. I know all this. I see it. I'm aware. At least I'm aware. It took me years to kind of, but you're just like, well, it doesn't work. Something's off. How do I fix this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know how you fix it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are we doing?
Amazing.
Good.
Almost one.
Yeah. Good.
Amazing. This is really fun.
That was like really amazing. It's like I feel like I need to get that done just because the sports psychology changed my life.
So you already know.
I know that it's like magic. I call it magic.
I love it.
People
I
go,
call it magic all the time.
Can you teach my kid how to hit? Like, what would you suggest for my kid? And I'm like, sports psychology and fundamentals. Every day. The basic fundamentals, not like getting cute.
Yep.
But for me, is the visualization. Like, it changed the wiring.
I love it.
Right?
And how old were you when you did that?
21 and 22. And then I'm telling you, because I was a high draft pick. And so I that anxiety and emotional immaturity or whatever you want to call it from when I started to fail, because I was a high draft pick and I started to fail, I was embarrassed and it just was like a spiral mentally.
Yeah.
I couldn't control the spiral. My physical ability was amazing. And
then it was sabotaging.
I was sabotaging myself.
Yes.
And then the Blue Jays were like, hey, we're going to send you sports psychology on the off season. So I did it for 3 months.
Okay.
But then I did it for 3 months, once a week with the therapist. Yeah. And then I had a program through some guided stuff.
Yes.
So I do that every day.
Love it.
And I went into spring training and I was like, it was weird.
Because you were so good.
All of my physical ability was just autopilot. Like I started to question myself, like, am I really that good?
Am I really that good?
Maybe this is luck.
Yep.
But it's the subconscious trying to drag me.
Yes.
So what happened is when I didn't understand because I was young, is that I'm like, okay, cool, I figured it out.
Yeah.
So I just stopped doing the visualizations, and then the subconscious dragged me right down, and I spiraled back down.
Yeah.
And then I had anxiety, I had to leave, and like it was awful.
Man.
So,
and that's part of your success, subconscious programming. So that thing about this is the thread that you pull, and you just had a massive experience of it middle of the life that you've lived so far at 21 with this experience. But it was the reason that those things were there, the question, am I really this good? Am I just getting lucky? Am I, all those things, those are part of the thread that is connected to the childhood of this, it can't be this good because I've never seen it modeled. Yeah. I've only seen it.
Yes.
That's it.
This is this is a fluke because it's just like in my business now, like if I'm inconsistent, I don't see results, right? If I'm consistent, the results lag, but it's like, it's about consistency and just the awareness of it.
Yeah. And awareness is just the beginning. It's becoming aware changes nothing. Yeah. It's what you do with the awareness. So you have to interrupt the patterns that are coming. And so you're now you're aware of like, oh, I'm having that thought right now. I got to interrupt that, but that's the caboose.
Yeah. The traditional therapy, I almost think it sounds weird, but I feel like I know almost more in some ways than some of those therapists.
I have some people come to work with me.
You don't need to, but you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
You're just teaching me stuff, but I already kind of I get it.
Yeah. I have people who come to me who are like, when I told my therapist that I was coming to work with a hypnotherapist, they were like, good, because I'll only work with a hypnotherapist. I won't work with other therapists. Like, this therapist will not work with other therapists because they know too much. They know the same tools, and it's like, we need a new tool. And that's
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's, because people are just confused, man. They want to get better, but they don't know how to get better.
That's it.
Nobody wants to feel that way.
No, I think what we want is to actually really know who we are, and it takes bravery. You know what I mean? Like, because we're headed this way, and our past is back this way. And how many of us are willing to go like, hang on a second, let me figure this out. Let me go back here and figure this out. And then of that group that is constantly in therapy and constantly doing these things, reading the books and applying the principles and things, of that, even a smaller amount of people are willing to actually pull back the curtain and go, okay, I'm going to look at that thing. I'm going to allow myself to go where I need to go. And oftentimes we don't even go to the thing that they think it is. We go to some other thing that's tied to it, that is actually the thing that you were meant to see, that heals the other thing. And then it changes everything. I was going somewhere with that.
A chain reaction.
It is a chain reaction. But oh, it's so good.
It's tripping me out a little
bit. I love it. I love what I do. I love it.
Well, I want to learn more about it.
Cool.
Because these triggers affect your relationships too, big time.
They do.
Both ways.
Yep.
Not just me.
So here's the thing about relationships, and I'll end on this. But we choose and attract partners who match our subconscious programming. And a relationship is a dance. It's a dance that you choreograph together. Oh, you do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and you do this, and we have a fight, and then I always respond this way, and whatever. Mm-hmm. And it matches what our subconscious is familiar with, because it wants to be, they say, the hell that you know is better than the hell that you don't know. Mm-hmm. It's like, or the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, or whatever. That's the subconscious. It's like we will settle for, less and unsuccessful and paycheck to paycheck and all the things because we know it. Mm-hmm. We know how to do this. So when we enter relationships, once someone starts to heal within the subconscious, that person starts to take a different step. They're not doing the same dance anymore. So it interrupts the pattern. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, and this is the beauty of the oneness of humanity, is that when you start to take care of yourself in the deepest way, like, healing the subconscious and taking ownership, radical responsibility for your past, your present, and what's happening in your future, when you take that responsibility and bring it into your relationship dynamic, it has an effect that your partner has signed up for. So when you stop doing the thing that you've always done that they know how to respond to, they then have an opportunity to freak out and leave because now they're uncomfortable because you're showing up more in your authenticity and you're not doing it as a bully. You're just doing it in you're just saying like, wow, this doesn't serve anymore and I understand why I brought that in. We have an opportunity to evolve together in relationships. Somebody has to break the mold. Somebody has to stop doing the same thing that's always been done. And we see relationships that will go, our grandparents, might have been in relationship for 60 years. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah, they signed up for it and they just stuck it out.
They just argued for my whole
Exactly.
I'm like the same thing every day. So you're saying that, and we can wrap up with this, but you're saying that what if somebody's healing and they're in figuring things out a little bit, could there be a separation?
100%.
That's what I'm saying is like, there's different growth patterns.
There are. And sometimes...
Do you see the other person adjust in the frequency and adjust mold?
Yes.
Or is it generally the other way?
No, I think, and here's the thing about my work. It's like you start to recognize that you're a soul on a journey and that you are the main character in your story. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes we position other people, especially as women, we tend to position the other person like, I've been the woman behind the man. I'm the woman behind the man with Aaron until, 2 days ago when I'm like, I'm not going to be the woman behind the man anymore. But I was the woman behind the man in my marriage and I allowed him to, to build our world famous businesses. And I started to shift and change, and I knew that this was no longer in alignment. Mm-hmm. And so I ended that relationship. But it is possible, and I see it with my clients, where the wife will come to me and she will start to heal on this level and she will bring that energy home and it will spark and activate something in her partner who's like, oh, we're going to evolve together, and he'll start to do his work. And then they start to do it and they just change the dance together, and it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. But everybody's on a different trajectory. Yeah. Some people are ready for it, some people aren't, but we've signed up for all of it. Mm-hmm. So when you or whoever when you have the initiative and the feeling of like, I got to get in here and deal with this thing. I'm not sure what's going to happen in my relationship. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to stick it out so that I can maintain my relationship. You are not only denying yourself your evolution and your growth, you are denying the other person what they have signed up for, which is for you to do your evolution and your growth, so that they will be catapulted into their evolution and growth.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
This was so fun.